Welcome, seekers of knowledge. Welcome, seekers of knowledge, you in whom words ignite the lanterns of consciousness, and whose souls are quenched by the wellspring of wisdom. Here, within the halls of Millennium Library, we embark together on a unique journey through the paths of letters and the labyrinthine corridors of ideas. This is not just a podcast, it is a cultural edifice that rises with you, from you, and for you. We are here to revive the worlds of novels, to delve into the depths of stories, and to present you with the treasures of classic literature, transcending the boundaries of time and space. Every voice you hear, every word that touches your ears, is the fruit of a joint effort, a human and artistic legacy born from the pristine collaboration between a creative human mind and promising artificial intelligence. We have worked together to transform these timeless literary masterpieces, which are now in the public domain, into captivating audio experiences, reaching you pure, clear, and rich. This work, in all its details, is the property of Millennium Library. All broadcasting and production rights are reserved to it, and everything you hear is part of this cultural legacy that we offer to the world. We kindly ask you to enjoy this unique experience and contribute to spreading the light of knowledge while respecting the ownership and rights of this creative production. Millennium Library, where human and artificial intelligence meet to create an enduring legacy. Join us now in this great auditory adventure. How Sabai Grass Grew. Once upon a time, there were 7 brothers who had an only sister. These brothers undertook the excavation of a large tank, but although they spent large sums and dug very deep, they could not reach water, and the tank remained dry. One day, as they were consulting what to do to get the tank to fill, they saw a jogi corning towards them with a lota in his hand. They at once called to him to come and advise them, for they thought that, as he spent his time wandering from country to country, he might somewhere have learned something which would be of use to them. All the jogi said to them was, "You have a sister. If you sacrifice her, the tank will fill with water." The brothers were fond of the girl, but in their despair at seeing their labor wasted, they agreed to give the advice of the jogi a trial. So they told their mother the next day that when their sister brought them out their midday meal, she was to be dressed in her best and carry the rice in a new basket and must bring a new water pot to draw their water in. At midday, the girl went down to her brother's with her best cloth and all her jewelry on. And when they saw their victim coming, they could not keep from tears. She asked them what they were grieving for. They told her that nothing was the matter, and sent her to draw water in her new water pot from the dry tank. Directly the girl drew near to the bank, the water began to bubble up from the bottom. And when she went down to the water's edge, it rose to her instep. She bent down to fill her pot, but the pot would not fill, though the water rose higher and higher. Then she sang, "The water has risen, brother, and wetted my ankle, brother, but still the lota in my hand will not sink below the surface." But the water rose to her knees, and the pot would not fill, and she sang, "The water has risen, brother, and wetted my knees, brother, but still the lota in my hand will not sink below the surface." Then the water rose to her waist, and the pot would not fill, and she sang, "The water has risen, brother, and wetted my waist, brother, but still the lota in my hand will not sink below the surface." Then the water reached her neck, and the pot would not fill, and she sang, "The water has risen, brother, and wetted my neck, brother, but still the lota in my hand will not sink below the surface." At last it flowed over her head, and the water pot was filled, but the girl was drowned. The tank, however, remained brimful of sparkling water. Now, the unhappy girl had been betrothed, and her wedding day was just at hand. On the day fixed, the marriage broker came to announce the approach of the bridegroom, who shortly afterwards arrived at the outskirts of the village in his palki. The 7 brothers met him, and the usual dancing began. The bridegroom's party, however, wished to know why the bride did not appear. The brothers put them off with various excuses, saying that the girl had gone with her friends to gather firewood or to the river to draw water. At last, the bridegroom's party got tired of waiting and turned to go home in great wrath at the way in which they had been treated. On their way, they passed by the tank in which the girl had been sacrificed, and, growing in the middle of it, they saw a most beautiful flower. The bridegroom at once determined to possess this, and he told his drummers to pick it for him. But whenever one of them tried to pick it, the flower moved out of his reach, and a voice came from the flower saying, "Take the flower, drummer, but the branch you must not break." And when they told him what the flower sang, the bridegroom said that he would try and pick it himself. No sooner had he reached the bank than the flower of its own accord floated towards him, and he pulled it up by the roots and took it with him into the palki. After they had gone a little way, the palki bearers felt the palki strangely heavy, and when they looked in, they found the bride also sitting in it, dressed in yellow garments, for the flower was really the girl who had been drowned. So they joyfully took the happy couple, with drumming and music, to the bridegroom's house. In a short time, misfortune befell the 7 brothers. They fell into the deepest poverty, and were forced to earn what they could by selling leaves and sticks which they gathered in the jungle. As they went about selling these, they one day came to the village where their sister was living, and as they cried their wares through the streets, they were told to go to the house where the marriage had taken place. They went there, and as they were selling their leaf plates, their sister saw and recognized them. They had only ragged loincloths on, and their skins were black and cracked like a crocodile's. At the sight, their sister began to cry. Her friends asked what was the matter, and she said a straw from the thatch had run into her eye, so they pulled down some of the thatch. She still went on crying, and they again asked what was wrong. She said that she had knocked her foot against a stone in the ground, so they dug up the stone and threw it away. But she still went on weeping, and at last confessed that the miserable looking leaf sellers were her brothers. Then her husband's parents told her to be comforted, and they gave the brothers oil and bade them go and bathe and oil their bodies. But the brothers were so hungry that when they got to the bathing place, they drank the oil and ate the oil cake that had been given to them, and came back with their skins as rough as when they went. So then they were given more oil, and some of the household went with them, and made them bathe, and oil themselves properly, and then brought them to the house, and gave them new clothes, and made them a feast of meat and rice. According to the custom of the country, they were made to sit down in order of age, and were helped in that order. When they had all been helped and had eaten, their sister said to them, "Now, brothers, you come running to me for food, and yet you sacrificed me in the tank." Then they were overwhelmed with shame. They looked up at the sky, but there was no escape there. They looked down at the earth, and the earth split open, and they all ran into the chasm. The sister tried to catch the youngest brother by the hair and pull him out, calling, "Come back, brother! Come back, brother! You shall carry my baby about for me." But his hair came off in her hand, and the earth swallowed them all up. Their sister planted the hair in a corner of the garden, and it is said that from that human hair, Sabai grass originated. The merchant's son and the Raja's daughter. Once a merchant's wife and a Raja's wife were both with child, and one day, as they bathed together, they fell into conversation, and they agreed that if they both bore daughters, then the girls should be flower friends, while if one had a son and one a daughter, then the children should marry. And they committed the agreement to writing. A month or two later, the Raja's wife bore a daughter, and the merchant's wife a son. When the children grew up a bit, they were sent to school, and as they were both very intelligent, they soon learnt to read and write. At the school, the boys used to be taught in an upstairs room, and the girls on the ground floor. One day, the boy wrote out a copy of the agreement which their mothers had made, and threw it down to the girl who was below. She read it, and from that day they began to correspond with each other. Love soon followed, and they decided to elope. They fixed a day, and they arranged that the boy should wait for the girl under a turu tree outside the town. When the evening came, the girl made haste to cook her parents' supper, and then, when they went to bed, she had as usual to soothe them to sleep by rubbing their limbs. All this took a long time, and the merchant's son soon got tired of waiting. So he sang to the tree, be witness for me, Turu tree, when the Raja's daughter comes." And so singing, he tied his horse to the roots of the tree, and himself climbed up into the branches. And sitting in the tree, he pulled off and threw down a number of twigs. Late at night, the Raja's daughter came. She saw the horse tied and the twigs scattered on the ground, but no other sign of her lover. And at last she got tired of waiting, and called the turu tree to witness, singing, be witness for me, turu tree, when the merchant's son comes." As she finished her song, the merchant's son threw down a large branch to her, so she looked up and saw him sitting in the tree. Then she climbed up to him and began to scold him for putting her to the pain of waiting so long. He retorted, "It was you who made me anxious by keeping me waiting. That was not my fault. You know how much work a woman has to do. I had to cook the supper and put my parents to bed and rub them to sleep. Climb down and let us be off." So they climbed down from the tree and mounted the horse and rode off to a far country. On the road, the girl became very thirsty, but in the dense jungle they could find no water. At last, the merchant's son threw a stone at hazard, and they heard it splash in a pool. So they went in the direction of the sound, and there they found water, but it was foul and full of worms, and the girl refused to drink it. She said that she would only drink water which had a father and mother. So they went on their way, and after a time they came to a number of crows holding a meeting, and in the midst was an owl with its head nodding drowsily. It was seeing dreams for them. Every now and then a crow would give it a shove and ask what it had dreamt. But the owl only murmured that it had not finished, and went off to sleep again. At last it said, "I have seen a gander and a goose go down into a river and swim about in it." The merchant's son and his companion went on, and presently came to a river in full flood, which was quite uncrossable. On the far bank was a cow, lowing to a calf, which had been left on the bank where they were. When she saw them, the girl began to sing. The cow lows for its calf. The calf bleats for its mother. My father and mother are weeping for me at home." When he heard her lament like this, the merchant's son exclaimed, "You women are all alike. Come, let us go back." "How can we go back now?" answered the girl. "You, of course, can pretend that you have been hunting, but we women lose our character if we are hidden by a bush for a minute." So, as they could not cross the river by themselves, a goose and gander carried them across on their backs. As they went on, the merchant's son asked the girl how far she would like to go, a 6 days' journey or a 6 months' journey. He told her that in the 6 months' journey they would only have fruits and roots and such like to eat and water to drink, but the 6 days' journey was easy and free from hardship. The girl chose the 6 days' journey, so they went on for 6 days and came to a stream on the banks of which stood a cottage, in which lived an old woman. Before they went up to it, the girl told her lover not to eat any rice given to him by the old woman, but to throw it to the fowls. Then they went and asked to be allowed to cook their food there. Now the old woman had 7 unmarried sons, who were away hunting at the time, and when she saw the Rajah's daughter, she wished to detain her and marry her to one of her sons. So, in order to delay them, she gave them a damp stove and green firewood to cook with. She also offered the merchant's son some poisoned rice, but he threw it to the fowls, and when they ate it, they fell down dead. The girl could not make the fire burn with the green wood, so they hurried away as fast as they could without waiting to cook any food. Before they started, however, the old woman managed to tie up some mustard seed in a cloth and fasten it to their horse's tail, so that as they rode, the seed was spilt along the road they took. When the old woman's sons came back from hunting, she greeted them by saying, "Why did you not come back sooner? I have just found a pretty wife for you, but I have tied mustard seed to their horse's tail, and it is being scattered along the road. In one place it is sprouting, in another it is flowering, in another it is seeding, and in another it is ripe. When you get to the place where it is ripe, you will catch them." So the seven brothers pursued the two lovers and caught them up. But the merchant's son cut down six of them with his sword. The seventh, however, hid under the horse's belly, and begged for mercy, and offered to serve them as groom to their horse. This man's name was Damagurguria. They spared his life, and he followed them running behind the horse. But he watched his opportunity and caught the merchant's son unawares, and killed him with his sword. Then he told the girl that she belonged to him, and she admitted it, and asked that she might ride behind him on the horse. So Damaguria mounted, and took her up behind him, and turned homewards. He could not see what the girl was doing, and they had not gone far when she drew his sword, and killed him with it. Then she rode back to where the body of her lover lay, and began to weep over it. As she sat there, a man in shining white clothing appeared, and asked what was the matter. She told him Damagurguria had killed her lover. Then he bade her stop crying and go and wet a gamcha. He gave her, and come straight back with it without looking behind her, and then pick a merrill twig and beat the corpse with it. So the girl took the gamcha and went and dipped it in a pool, but as she was bringing it back, she heard a loud roaring behind her, and she looked back to see what it was. So the stranger sent her back again to the pool, and this time she did not look round, though she heard the same roaring. Then the stranger told her to join the severed head to the body and cover it with the wet gamcha, and then, after waiting a little, to beat the body with the merrill twig. So saying, he disappeared. The girl carefully complied with these instructions, and to her joy saw the merchant's son sit up and rub his eyes, remarking that he must have been asleep for a long time. Great was his astonishment when he heard how Damaguria had killed him, and how he had been restored to life by the help of the stranger in white. This was the end of the lovers' troubles, and they lived happily ever after. Conclusion of our journey. And so we reach the conclusion of our journey for today, within the unending worlds of words and the never folding pages of knowledge. We have spent an enjoyable and beneficial time together within the embrace of Millennium Library, where voices meet tales and a new cultural legacy is forged. We hope you have enjoyed every moment and delved deeply into the dimensions of the story or novel we presented to you. Always remember that this grand edifice, Millennium Library, is the result of a unique collaboration between human creativity and the profound depth of artificial intelligence. Our goal is to enrich your ears and minds with the treasures of world literature and to make knowledge accessible to everyone, while preserving the ownership rights of Millennium Library for this distinctive production. Don't forget to follow us and activate the notification bell to receive all new content. And share this podcast with everyone around you, for knowledge is light, and together we illuminate the paths. Until we meet again in a future episode and a new literary adventure, may you be in the care and keeping of Allah, and within the realm of immortal words. Millennium Library, where tales are embodied, knowledge is narrated, and creativity is immortalized.